It states, Numismatic Certification Institute and its principals Steve Ivy and James Halperin agreed to settle charges that its representations and failures to disclose information misled customers to the value of coins certified by the company. An affiliate, Heritage Capital Corporation, also agreed to settle charges that it provided substantial assistance to a coin retailer, Certified Rare Coin Galleries, knowing that CRCG was misrepresenting the security and profit potential of its coins to investors. Under the settlement, defendants agreed to a permanent injunction, and Heritage and NCI agreed to contribute $1.2 million into a consumer redress plan for CRCG's customers. Another interesting thing about Jim is that in 1985, he wrote a book called How to Grade US
What a great
Coins,
book it was, up there with the Bible.
The grading standards of the two leading third-party grading services, BCGS and NGC, were ultimately based. Again, these are the two grading companies that Antiques Age cited as the most important factors in the coin bubble. There is a very strong case to be made that Jim Halperin is the single most responsible person for the coin bubble of the 80s. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it kind of looks like he's doing exactly the same thing again 40 years later, but this time in video games. As I've said before, it's impossible to prove intent, but one thing you can certainly disprove is ignorance. Jim Halperin was extremely caught up in the 80s coin bubble and was so responsible that he was fined over $1 million. You don't forget something like that. He knows exactly how bubbles are formed. He's seen them before, which is why he would know exactly how to create them again. Remember, Jim Halperin bought the Super Mario Bros. Cart that sparked this entire game bubble. He is an advisor to Wata Games and, according to rumors, also an investor in the company. He is the founder of the auction house that these games have been selling on for record prices. It's too convenient that this one person is involved in every single piece of the puzzle when he has.
It's just a coincidence. He loves games, bro. He's a gamer.
This doesn't seem like a coincidence.
And he can value them.
The retro video game bubble cannot go on forever. At some point, it will burst. The question is when. There are a couple of scenarios that might make this happen sooner rather than later. The first is the release of population reports. In collecting, one of the things that drives up the price of an item is rarity. Is there no pop reports for Wata? In every other realm of collecting, grading companies produce what are called population reports. These reports tell you exactly how many of any particular item have been graded by the company, along with their rating. So if I do a search for Action Comics #1 through CGC, a comic book grader, I can find out exactly how many are out there and at what rating. Population reports are standard practice because they allow people to judge the rarity of an item accurately. What if Nintendo's in on this fraud too? Before making
Nintendo doesn't know what the internet is. I'm not worried about that.
Surprise, Wata Games keeps this information hidden from the public and refuses to let anyone know how many games of each type have been graded. So we really have no idea how many of each game are out there. When more games of the same kind become known, prices plummet. It has already started happening with some games. The best example is Spider-Man for the Atari 2600.
Who would buy this?
In May of 2020, the first sealed Spider-Man was listed on Heritage Auctions. It was a 9.8 A++, the best rating you can get. It was mint condition, and it's such an old game that it's surely rare. It sold for $9,000, which in 2020 was actually still a decent amount of money to spend on a video game. But the funny thing about Spider-Man for the Atari 2600 is that it's not rare. It's not rare at all, even in mint condition. After this sale, Heritage was flooded with 9.8 A++ Spider-Mans. And when I say flooded, I really do mean flooded. With each sale, the price diminished. In April of 2021, a 9.8 A++ sold for $870. That's a decrease of over 90% in less than a single year. When people realize how common some of these games are, prices will be destroyed. And that's what Wata Games and Heritage Auctions are afraid of. Legitimate collectors have been complaining for the past 2 years, but unfortunately, none of them have substantial audiences, and they are essentially powerless against the forces that are driving this bubble. If you want to help make a positive change, you can send Wata Games some feedback by email, letting them know how appreciated it would be if they let us know how many graded games are out there. The release of population reports would be a good start, but Wata Games and Heritage Auctions
it is called Majora's Mask? I thought it was the Fierce Deity Mask. Oh, no, it's not. It's a totally different mask.
Journalists don't even bother asking real collectors what they think about what's happening. They simply get sound bites from Wata and Heritage and allow them to inflate the bubble with hype, despite the obvious conflict of interest. I asked a couple of lifetime collectors what they think should happen, and this is what they had to say.
My name is Pat Contri. I'm a YouTuber, podcaster, but also a longtime video game collector since the late 90s. I've seen a lot of things in the game.
Thanks, Resub. Underestimated.
What's happening right now?
Haven't watched it yet, Exorian.
Sealed games market is something I could
haven't watched it yet, Casual.
Ever imagine. And it's a shame that the video game collecting hobby that I've been a part of for decades, and many others, including sellers as well, people that have helped grow this hobby of ours with passion, with knowledge, doing research, putting in the time and effort. This is the end result. The unfortunate end result is that this hobby that we all love has been perverted
into something beautiful,
to the
big dollars
of a small group of people to line their pockets. These are rich people getting richer, and they've stepped on and stepped over all the video game collectors, all the people that have sold the games, run video game shops, all the people on forums researching this illustrious and beautiful past history of video games. They've all been used. We've all been used now for the select
and it feels good
to get richer. And it's a crying shame.
Oh.
It's probably too late, unfortunately. But in a perfect world, there should be full transparency and accountability when it comes to these video games. We should know if someone who helps run the auction house is involved in the buying and selling of the games that
this
are being
background music
auctioned.
is so nice.
We should know if the people grading the games are buying and selling these games themselves. It's unethical if they are doing so, and we should know that so we can stamp out bad behavior.
Now, how can this be avoided? Well, it's quite simple. If WATA would release and update population reports for all these items that they're grading on a regular basis, this would not be a problem going forward, guys. This is a problem due to the fact that there's a lack of ethics and a lack of transparency in these markets. Collectors deserve.
Well, there's also a bigger problem of fraud.
Out there that want this to be a thing, rather than thinking from the standpoint that you're going to make money over the long term in this market, what you should be doing is demanding better from grading companies, from auction companies, from other players in the trade. You should be demanding ethics and transparency.
This bubble isn't just affecting sealed video games at the highest price points. The selling point of every single game has increased dramatically over the past 2 years, even for non-sealed games. Aspiring video game collectors who legitimately want to build their collections will get screwed because the hobby will become too expensive to be viable. What's worse is that people are using the record sale prices in order to scam people. You can find cart-only Super Mario 64s for hundreds or even thousands of dollars on eBay when they are only worth $10. People with a lot of money and power have taken over collecting, and their thirst for money means we will all suffer. As someone who does care deeply about gaming, it honestly sickens me that these people have turned these cherished possessions into a means to gamble and speculate. And I hope this ridiculous practice of trying to extract profit from the suckers who buy the hype will end sooner rather than later. As a sign of appreciation, it would be amazing if you could go and subscribe to a couple of real collectors that helped me learn more about this. Go check out Pat the NES Punk and also Sean from Reserved Investments. These two gentlemen have been collecting for most of their lives, and we need more people like this who are not only passionate but
he has WATA graded shit
about what's happening. Also check out David Wilson's channel, as it really took some balls to be willing to let me know what he had heard. You can find the links to these channels in the description. Hopefully, you have learned something about how those in power can create speculative bubbles. Next time you see them trying to do it, make sure you call it out and let them know that we won't tolerate it. As always, thank you so much for watching.
That was very interesting. That was a lot deeper than I thought it would be. That's fucking wild. It really seems like irrefutable proof that Carl had here. I don't know how Jim especially has any leg to stand on with all of this being so publicly visible. Like, there's no opinion pieces in this entire video. It is actual just facts and proof to back it up.